You're not going to believe this. In the span of just 24 hours, the FBI has been purged, ICE has been defied, and the deep state just made its last desperate move. Agents fired, phones of sitting U.S. senators tapped, and while President Donald J. Trump's Justice Department is cleaning house, the mayor of Chicago is openly declaring war on federal law enforcement, signing an executive order that literally bans ICE from doing its job on city soil. It's crazy. You're watching a constitutional showdown play out in real time. Washington swamp rats are cornered and they're turning on each other. Kash Patel just dropped the hammer. Dan Bongino warned that this was coming, and now the deep state's walls are closing in fast. This is not a coincidence. The ICE raid, the FBI raid, the ICE revolt, the shutdown panic that we're seeing, they're all connected. And by the end of today's video, you're going to see exactly how these events collide into what insiders are already calling the deep state's last stand. Now, stick with me, guys, because what you're about to hear, this is going to change everything about how you see everything that's happening in America right now. Hit the like button and subscribe. I want to go ahead and get into this. So it started with a bang outside the Hoover building. Kash Patel's memo went public, multiple FBI agents fired, and the Bureau's so-called CR-15 corruption squad gone overnight. Why? Because evidence confirmed that they were monitoring sitting U.S. senators, Republicans only, by the way. It wasn't just a rumor anymore. This was written in the Bureau's own audit. Phones tapped, emails logged, private calls intercepted, all of it under Joe Biden's watch. Now dragged into daylight by President Trump's new DOJ. Yeah, so the announcement hit Wall Street like a grenade. Reporters froze. Lawmakers, they started whispering left and right. You could feel it. The panic was spreading through every marble hallway in the facility. Years of denial collapsed in a single press statement. The FBI, once called independent, had become a political weapon, and now Trump's team was swinging the hammer to dismantle it. So here's where it gets even darker. Oh yeah, and it gets a whole lot darker from here. The operation was called Arctic Frost. This is an internal DOJ sweep, found a chain of data requests routed through backdoor surveillance warrants that never went before a FISA judge. Translation, they didn't even pretend to follow the law. Investigators traced this pattern to the same internal analytics group that handled the January 6th communications. Shocker, right? Gets worse. This proves the tap orders weren't isolated incidents. They were systematic, okay? So the scope, well, more than a dozen Republican officials and staffers, okay? Think about that. Spying on Republican lawmakers responsible for funding the agency that are doing the spying. That's not oversight. That is blackmail infrastructure. So when the findings reached the Attorney General's desk, President Trump's transition appointees ordered a full shutdown. That's when Kash Patel, the man overseeing the cleanup, decided enough was enough. In fact, the deep state's cover was gone and accountability had officially begun. So folks, this is unprecedented. I feel like if President Trump never became president, none of these deep state rats would ever be exposed. Drop an amen down below if you agree. So when the list came out, it read like a who's who of conservative leadership. You had Josh Hawley, you had Marsha Blackburn, you had Ron Johnson, Lindsey Graham, Cynthia Lummis. Every single one of them had been targeted under the Biden era's FBI so-called national security protocols. But those protocols, it turns out, were nothing more than political fishing expeditions. That's right, folks. Josh Hawley went nuclear on the Senate floor, calling it a criminal violation of the separation of powers. Blackburn demanded prosecutions. Lummis said it felt like living in East Germany. Now, here's the part that the media completely ignored. Every one of those senators had been outspoken critics of the DOJ's conduct after January 6th, so the motive wasn't even mystery. Clearly, this was retaliation, plain and simple. The message from the old FBI was, if you step out of line, we'll come for your phones. The message from Trump's new DOJ was, try it again and you're going to lose your jobs. Now, your biggest enemy isn't bad health. It is bad Medicare coverage. Even with good health, the wrong Medicare plan, it can drain your money. It can cut your doctors, and it can leave you absolutely vulnerable. This is why at Partnering with Chapter, they expose the flaws in your Medicare plan, and they replace them with coverage that actually protects you. Leslie, she beat the enemy. She saved $1,000 a year, not just once, every year. Sharon, she beat it too. She got back coverage after being dropped. So ask yourself this, are you going to just keep trying to fight alone? or you're going to join the thousands who have already called for backup. Now, most people are calling that phone number right there at the bottom of your screen, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. That telephone number again is 909-563-8279. And of course, it is totally free for the Ron Yates community. So this is when Dan Bongino stepped in and essentially lit the fuse. Within minutes of Patel's announcement, Bongino posted, "Heads are rolling." And it's just the beginning. Wow. He wasn't even bluffing. Kash Patel's directive fired every agent linked to Arctic Frost, dissolved the CR-15 squad entirely, and opened a criminal referral to the Inspector General for potential prosecutions. Patel said it best: transparency is justice. Accountability is freedom. But inside the Beltway, panic turned into silence. The same commentators who once called Trump's people conspiracy theorists, well, let's just say that they were now watching indictments being drafted against their former colleagues. And Dan Bongino, the ex-Secret Service agent who warned America for years, he finally got to say, "I told you so." Drop a "I told you so" if you're with Dan Bongino on this one, guys. The swamp had been warned, the hammer has dropped, and for the first time in decades, the FBI wasn't above the law, it was under investigation. So just hours after the firings, Pam Bondi appeared on camera and confirmed what everyone was whispering. A full internal investigation had been launched to uncover who authorized the wiretaps. She didn't hold back. In fact, no one who weaponized this bureau will survive this purge. That's what she said. That is what Pam Bondi said. Her words echoed through every news cycle that day. Pam Bondi named names indirectly, hinting that the signature approving those wiretaps likely came from Jack Smith's office during the January 6th probe. Interesting, huh? Now that revelation turned the scandal from shocking to explosive, because remember, Jack Smith wasn't some low-level bureaucrat. He was Joe Biden's special prosecutor. This is the same man who built the legal framework to chase Trump supporters across country. Now, that same man and his team, they're now under criminal review. Now, Pam Bondi promised prosecutions, Kash Patel promised transparency, and the American people, after years of being lied to, finally got a glimpse of real accountability inside the system. So this is really where the rot goes deep, because this investigation quickly traced the wiretap orders and the data mining back to remnants of the Obama-era DOJ, guys. These are the same insiders who stayed behind under Biden, who helped craft the Russia hoax, who buried Hunter Biden's laptop, we all remember that, right? And who fed the media fake national security leaks. They were still back there pulling the strings. So Jack Smith, who once called Trump a danger to institutions, he became the symbol of the old guard. The truth is here: the only thing in danger was their control. Sources say Trump's DOJ has compiled nearly 100 internal memos proving that these same officials use the Bureau as a political weapon, coordinating with Democratic leadership and friendly media producers to shape narratives. Now, that network right there, folks, this is unraveling in real time. And so the panic, I mean, you can feel it from CNN studios to the DOJ hallways, because for the first time, the investigators have become the investigated. Yes. So inside Washington, the fallout has turned from DOJ into a war zone. I mean, senior attorneys are lawyering up. Career agents are whispering to reporters off the record. Whistleblowers, they're coming forward in waves. They're tired of having to have kept all of this inside. Whistleblowers want to tell the truth and reveal what's been hidden for years. Trump's new deputy attorney general reportedly ordered a full declassification of internal communications between the FBI field offices and the Washington headquarters. Guys, I don't know about you, but this is clearly an unprecedented move meant to smoke out the political operatives that are still embedded inside. And it's working too. Every email, every call log, every encrypted chat is being audited. Meanwhile, mainstream media, they're pretending like none of this is happening, because if they admit it, then they have to admit the truth. That for years, the so-called independent agencies, they weren't protecting democracies. They were protecting themselves. And very clearly, they weren't independent. And so it gets deeper. This isn't just an investigation anymore. This is a reckoning. And as this federal civil war brews behind the scenes, a second crisis is exploding 1,000 miles west in the streets of Chicago. So while the FBI was purging itself in DC, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson was lighting a match of his own. Oh yeah, and I don't know if he meant to do it. So he signs this executive order declaring the city's first ever ICE-free zones. That means federal immigration agents are banned from using city-owned property, including police precincts, schools, parking lots, and even libraries to enforce federal law. So it's open defiance of the Trump administration's constitutional authority. ICE officials, they called it a declaration of war against federal law enforcement. Conservative commentators called it the new Fort Sumter. Johnson framed it as humanitarian. That's right. Brandon Johnson framed it as humanitarian. But what he really did was he really created like this legal chaos, this jungle, this essentially pitting local police officers against federal agents and then daring Trump's DOJ to respond. Like, you can almost feel the arrogance that's coming out of the city hall there, as if Chicago forgot who runs the federal government now. So, well, President Trump hasn't forgotten, and neither has ICE. So after that ICE-free zone order hit the news, the chatter inside DC exploded. Could President Trump actually federalize the National Guard to protect ICE agents if Chicago authorities refuse to cooperate? Well, sources inside Homeland Security say it's on the table, and that's not an exaggeration. In fact, remember just a few weeks ago, an ICE unit was ambushed outside of a detention facility on the city's south side. When agents called for backup, local Chicago PD units were allegedly told to stand down. That's not miscommunication. That is insubordination. If state or local authorities refuse to uphold federal law, the president has constitutional authority under the Insurrection Act to restore order. The last thing anybody wants is soldiers on the streets, but if safety of federal officers is at stake, well, Trump may have no choice. So this isn't just about immigration anymore. This is now about sovereignty itself. So just as Chicago's defiance blew up, so did the Democrats' approval ratings. So a new Fox News Insider Advantage poll released this week shows a very stunning shift. 62% of voters blame Democrats for the ongoing government shutdown. The number one reason? Prioritizing healthcare and benefits for illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, American families struggle. Now, this is a political implosion. It's happening right now. Every swing state Democrats are turning on party leadership. They're telling Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries behind closed doors, you've lost the middle class, guys. You have lost the middle class. Meanwhile, President Trump's approval rating jumped another 3 points. This is the highest since Trump's return to office. There's a reason for this. Democrats thought that the shutdown would make him look reckless, but instead it exposed their entire platform as being reckless. And so now, while Trump's DOJ is out here firing these corrupt agents and ICE is standing its ground, the opposition party is fracturing under the weight of its own lies. The meltdown has officially begun. So here's the kicker. All roads lead back to the Biden holdovers who never left. The same people who covered for Hunter Biden's laptop, who greenlit the January 6th surveillance program, who used national security as a shield for political targeting, they were still in place when Trump walked back into the Oval Office. So now their fingerprints are on everything. The wiretaps, the ICE obstruction, the budget shutdown threats. Trump's DOJ is quietly releasing documents, and the document sets that show how Obama and Biden era officials built a parallel chain of command inside federal agencies, one that answered not to the Constitution, but to party loyalty. This is the very definition of a shadow government. Drop a shadow government down below if you're happy that they're finally being exposed. And as each layer peels away, Americans are finally realizing something chilling. It wasn't incompetence that was running the country these past few years. It was intentional corruption, and it's finally getting dragged into the light. So now you would think that the media would be camped outside DOJ headquarters covering this historic purge, right? Wrong. They're in meltdown mode right now. They're scrambling, trying to bury the story. CNN quietly edited its online coverage of the Wiretap scandal to remove Kash Patel's quotes. Why would they do such a thing? Well, MSNBC called the ICE-free zone order a misunderstanding. Even the Washington Post tried to frame the FBI firings as restructuring. But here's the truth. You can't spin your way out of this federal firing spree. When senators' phones are tapped and local mayors defy federal law, that's not partisan noise. That's national crisis. Independent journalists, meanwhile, they're doing what legacy media won't do. Publishing the documents, they're interviewing the whistleblowers, and they're exposing the rot. And every time they do, another mainstream narrative collapses. The public isn't buying it anymore. The deep state's media shield is cracking and collapsing. So the real question is, well, where does it go from here? Well, President Donald J. Trump has already made it clear. This is just the beginning. He's already rolling out what insiders are calling the full accountability agenda. It includes restructuring the FBI under direct congressional oversight, rebuilding the DOJ from the ground up, and permanently ending sanctuary policies that violate federal law. In his own words, no one who used power to destroy the innocent will ever hold power again. That's not politics. That is reform. So as Kash Patel and Dan Bongino keep saying, sunlight is the disinfectant. And now that sunlight, it's burning through decades of corruption. The deep state's last stand isn't just about control, it's about survival. And the tide has turned. The American people are awake, the cover-ups are dying, and the truth is finally winning. Like, subscribe, and share this video because history is being rewritten right now. And this time, the good guys are writing it.